Hello YouTuber, welcome as Fine Day, and today we are going to have a look at Geist of Saint Traft in Historic Brawl. This deck aims to win by playing a tempo game with Geist of Saint Traft to beat them down. So, the commander is a 3-mana 2/2 hexproof creature, and when Geist of Saint Traft attacks, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking. Exile the token at end of combat. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the different ways you can take this commander and why I've chosen to go for tempo. First, the most obvious choice to a lot of people is Geist of Saint Traft Voltron, because Geist of Saint Traft is the cheapest legendary creature in all of Magic with unconditional hexproof on it. So, yeah, you can just play Geist of Saint Traft fairly cheaply, like 3 mana is quite a bit for this kind of deck. And then the hexproof is a really strong keyword, and that is also the reason why Geist of Saint Traft is banned in Duel Commander, effectively 1 versus 1 EDH. Like just the hexproof ability, not because it's good Voltron strategy, but we will come to that later. So, the second way you can build Geist of Saint Traft is Spirit Tribal, but there is no real reason to play Geist of Saint Traft as Spirit Tribal apart from the creature type itself, but Geist doesn't really give you any payoffs. So now we land at the competitive version, the tempo, the way of the tempo, and so while hexproof is a hexproof creature is really hard to get rid of, it is not impossible. So if you go Voltron and then the opponent has edict effects or board wipes and you can't answer those, then you are in trouble and you just straight up lose the game. And what's even better is not losing the game to those cards. And so we have diversified our threats here. We play a bunch of creatures, 22, 21, something like that. Yeah, 21 in this current version. That also just help you beat down. And most of the deck, like over, I think, 36 something cards, play at instant speed in this deck. So that is quite a bit, considering that we also just have 39 lands, right? So over half of the playable cards in this deck, like the non-land cards, have flash or are an instant. So the idea is to go for the like the good old mono blue tempo days in standard, when you remember that, or Simic Flash, those kinds of playstyles where you just play a cheap threat and then you protect it with counter magic, and then if you don't counter something, you play cantrip in the opponent's end step or just flash another threat in. And the reason why Geist of Saint Traft is so good for that strategy is because, first and foremost, Geist is pretty cheap at 3 mana, obviously, but also it is a really hard to remove threat with only very few specific answers. And if you're backing Geist up with a bunch of counter magic, it is almost impossible to get rid of Geist, because what ends up happening is that you have your one answer, everything else, like, you just don't, the Geist player just doesn't care about. You play your one answer and then it just gets countered. And then you just sit there and say, God damn it, how do I ever remove this creature? And the answer is, you're probably not. So, and then also the other thing you can do is, if the opponent board wipes you, like let's say you play this flash game plan, right? And then if the opponent decides to board wipe, and you can just like let the board wipe go if they're tapped out, and then go to your turn, play Geist of Saint Traft. They can't play counter magic on it because they're tapped out, and yeah, good luck removing Geist, as we said before, right? So, what you might notice is that Geist of Saint Traft doesn't have flying himself. So against other creature decks, we have the issue of we can't really attack in with Geist because it's still a 2/2, right? It just gets blocked. So if we search for ways to give Geist of Saint Traft flying. There are a couple more ways, like a few really notable ones, or like ways to give Geist unblockable. But I decided to go only for like 5 cards, because while they do also play well with other threats in the deck, things like Brineborn Cutthroat, we don't really want to draw too many of these. And since we also just have a good plan B, we're not reliant on Saint Traft being able to connect, and we just have other ways. And I think these are the 5 best ones. I think undisputedly the 4 you're always going to play are Angelic Gift, Cartouche of Knowledge, Rune of Flight, and Fly, because these 3 immediately draw a card when they enter, and that is just so valuable, even like though these cost 1 more mana. Fly is like a hybrid evasion and curiosity effect, where your creature is also going to give you value on attack, and that is pretty good. And then Gryff's Boon, because we can later play it from the graveyard, and it gives 1 additional power, which this deck really wants. There is also, like, the 6th best of these effects is a 1 mana equipment that attaches a Cliffsail Kite something. 1 mana equipment, when it ETBs, you attach it to a creature, the creature is flying, and then you can re-equip it for 2. Like, for the flying purposes, a Cliffsail is better, but how often do you need to re-equip versus how often do you value the 1 power? Plus, you can also just later on get back Gryff's Boon as well, although at twice the cost, where the equip cost is only 2 and Gryff's Boon costs 4. But I just think the 1 additional power is better, and I don't think I want the 6th effect. Then also for some notable cute synergies in addition to that, we have a whole lot of phasing and stifling, meaning countering triggered abilities in this deck. And that is just more of a coincidence. Like, the only stifle card we're not running are the expensive ones and actual stifle. I can just show you the card right now for those people who don't know the card. Stifle, counter target activate or triggered ability for 1 mana. And what that kind of ability allows you to do is you get a trigger at end of combat that removes the angel, and you can counter that trigger so the angel sticks around. So effectively you have a 1 mana 4/4. This requires you to have Geist in play though, and attack with it. So earliest you're going to stifle something like your own thing is turn 4. The issue is that Stifle on its own is not good enough of a playable card for this, not marginal upside, but the upside of running Stifle on a Geist. Like, that just doesn't win you the game, so I don't think it is worth to play Stifle. Plus, this deck doesn't have great ways to get rid of unwanted cards in certain spots. Like, I think the only way to loot things from your hand are like Ledger Shredder and I believe there is one more, Seek New Knowledge. Otherwise, you are like the hands you have in cards that you have in your hand are going to stay there. So Stifle is not the greatest power level. What is playable though are things like Nimble Obstructionist and Tailsend as well. Like Tailsend, just great commander counter, and Nimble Obstructionist is also just a flash threat. And if you stifle something from the opponent, like usually stifling something is like a card to have a card in value, because they, like, if you stifle an ETB from a creature, they still have the creature. But Nimble Obstructionist to also just allows you to draw a card off of that. And then the other way you can make the angel stick around is with phasing, and this is like a much more effective way. Phase out. Yeah, so slip out the back. Target creature phases out. Spectral Adversary, a Flash Spirit that allows you to pay extra mana to phase things out, and March of Swelling Mist. And first and foremost, phase just saves your guys from board wipes, which is why it's great. It saves your other threats, and like it has just many more applications where you can also just phase out the opponent's cards for lethal or like to buy time, things like that. So these all have more applications than, you know, just Stifle. And then again, the rest of the threats, cheap interaction, mostly at instant speed. Like we make some concessions to not having enough spot removal, so we play things like ossification just as a catch-all, get removed. But for the most part, you play at instant speed, and if you have a card that doesn't play at instant speed, it is usually really, really good, or like has immediate impact. Like things like what you can do with the Ranger Captain of Eos on turn like 4, like there are tons of implications, tons and tons of implications of Ranger Captain. But what you can do, for example, on turn 4 is like you curve Geist on 3. On the play, and then you fear the turn 4 board wipe. So you slam your Ranger Captain of Eos and grab a Hope of Gryff, right? And then in their upkeep, you crack the Ranger Captain. Now they can't cast non-creatures for the rest of the turn. And then you go to your turn again, and then you attack with Hope and Geist again. You crack the Hope, and now they are locked out of sorceries yet again. And that is like a ton of damage. So yeah, that is the deck. Hope you enjoyed. If you do, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and join the Discord. It is free, great community, and let's do some gameplay. We are ready to play against Rathadrabik of Urborg. 1, 2... Yeah, absolutely. The question is just which of these 1-drops do we want to play? And given that we have things to do at instant speed, I think I like the Mausoleum 1-drop more. Ascendant Spirit is better in a hand where you have like Ascendant Spirit backed up by a bunch of counter magic, where you then like level up Spirit or level up the level up, what's it called? Where you level up Spirit or counter things. I'm currently considering if I should play this Rattle Change to push 1 more damage, but give up on the ability to give hexproof. I don't think they will play anything. So yeah, let's push 1 more damage. Yep, beautiful. Mox Amber. Okay, and we have a choice, and it's a big one actually. I think it's worth it to set them back here in this spot and just Portable Hole. And then we can, like, Rattle Chains is an amazing card for this deck. Okay, they just conceded they don't like the Mana Denial plan, but Rattle Chains is an amazing card for this deck. Giving all your spirits flash, like half of the creatures that don't have flash are spirits. So like we can just flash in the Ascendant Spirit here and play Consider. And our commander is a spirit, so turn 2 end step, Rattle Chains, and turn 3 end step Geist, and that leaves us in a way more flexible position. Yeah, anyways, GG. We are ready to play against Atraxa Grand Unifier. And did you know this is probably a favorite matchup, so if you hate on Atraxa, yeah, just play Geist. You will destroy them, hopefully. I mean, there are still games that you can just lose, but you know that's always going to be the case. Anyways, hand is not keepable in my opinion. Is this hand keepable? It's tough. It is tough. I think the answer might be yes. The fact that we're on the draw makes me want to keep the Spell Pierce, where we can counter a turn 2 rock or ramp, a piece of ramp. That's my thinking here. And then we don't have anything against the opponent's Atraxa yet. Well, somewhat. We have Fateful Absence, and that just can be good enough. Yeah, Spell Pierce, perfect. Counter the ramp. Level Hermit, should have played the Seacrum Coast. Don't think it will matter too much. If they leave blue mana, we are probably not going to play Geist. Although there is also a very strong argument to just not play Geist either way, reason being that on 4 they can play board wipes. And if we play Geist on 4 mana ourselves, well, that's really unfortunate. If we leave up 4 mana and then play Geist, we have Malevolent Hermit activation. So this right here is a spot where like a Voltron deck would just cry in a corner, and our deck is pretty good at dealing with that. We're going to Spell Queller literally anything. Yeah, we have to Spell Queller this. Otherwise the Spell Queller gets taken, and if we just counter that with Malevolent Hermit, we can't play the Spell Queller here in this spot. Anyways, it's not the greatest spot, honestly, not the greatest spot. Although, this is the strength of these cartouches, where now we are allowed to cantrip them away. Although, I think I would rather leave up Otawara, bounce the Curse of Silence at the end of turn, commit the Geist of Saint Traft to the field with Malevolent Hermit activation backup. So Otawara, the Curse of Silence. And they assume they kill the Malevolent Hermit in this spot. A 2-mana counterspell will be able to counter the Geist here, which is kind of awkward, honestly. So let's attack first. And we just play Geist, Malevolent Hermit activation to protect the Geist. Although I think most counter magic they play will be 2 or less. So I don't think Malevolent Hermit will do too much in this spot. Okay, that is completely fine. And that is pretty funny, like this kind of interaction where now we can just we can just go ahead and Malevolent Hermit that. I think I'm kind of into that. The reason being is that we can Fateful Absence the Atraxa, and if that happens, like I assume they will have an answer to. Oh no, they just Uru. I kind of like that. Oh, they tapped wrong. That's huge. Oh my god. Yeah, they can't play Uru now. That is so brutal. So, oh yeah, they could have just escaped Uru. I would have loved to see that play happening, but yeah. The reason why I like protecting the Spell Queller is if they play Atraxa, we kill Atraxa, and then the Spell Queller can still take something. What did they name? Geist of Saint Traft. Oh, ambitious, I say. Okay, we swing in. And Malevolent Hermit. So this is already lethal. But given that they can gain life from Uru, I think I just like committing the Benevolent Geist to the board. Maybe we were supposed to just Cartouche of Strength, though. So we can Fateful Absence in response. I think that's always going to happen. Maybe we weren't supposed to Fateful Absence in response. So usually you Fateful Absence in response just so the opponent can't get things to protect Atraxa. But also we have a concerted defense. And more importantly, this gives them more information on what to work with. So for example, in this spot they can just take Kaya's Wrath, Memory Lapse, and then they can Wrath through a Spell Queller concerted defense. And that is exactly what's happening. Land, Spirited Companion cantrip, I assume. That's fine. It's just a question of if we can get one more piece of interaction, we can. Oh no, we just have lethal. Yeah, this land trip just actually gives us lethal, right? Yeah, if we get one more piece of interaction, we can just deal with the Kaya's Wrath, but no need to do that if we can just swing in for lethal. Right? Right. So, yeah, that is the game. Hall of Storm Giants winning here. Pretty cool, in my opinion. Crash in. Crack the clue, and that is the game. GG. We are ready to play against Kaya, Intangible Slayer. And I think this is a beautiful keep. Let's do this. So, we have flash threats, we have interaction. We are likely going to portable hold their mana rocks. Mind Spike, that is fine. We're not going to portable hold their mana rocks. Although I assume, yeah, they just take a Mystical Dispute. Okay. Do that. We're not going to just play Geist here. Reason being is that, you know, we will just like our commander will just die in that spot. So let's portable hold. We don't really have other targets, and the question is if we make Cathar commander fly. I don't think so. Not a fan of that. We kind of want to get something like a Spell Pierce or something that phases out. That way we can just play guys next turn. They commit to a board wipe. We protect guys, and then we also just have a wash away as backup. So yeah. Oh, that is pretty good. That is actually really good. Yeah, pass turn. Yep, Path of Peril. I think that is fine. And we just play Rattle Chains, and then we can end step the Geist of Saint Traft. Or we can just go ahead and Ascendant Spirit. Although we can't activate it. Yeah, that's kind of an issue. Like we play a lot of Snowlands, but for color fixing considerations we have to play a few non-snows. This is just a more or less unlucky scenario. Fireman's Vessel. Sure. Let's play Geist. Yep. And we're not going to play Ascendant Spirit into a board wipe. Give this flying. Swing in. And yeah, it's looking troublesome for the opponent. I think it's 7 mana. I'm thinking maybe Tomb of Annihilation, but generally Lost the Mind of Phandelver is what you want to take. Oh yeah, that's a flash threat. I like that. And then pass turn, we have lethal on board, so they have to do something. So, what is it going to be? So yeah, in general, like, you are really preying on these like mid-rangey control decks. like just hard control. Like this is absolute anti-control. And as it turns out, the most popular commander in this queue right now is just... Oh, what am I doing? I wasn't supposed to counter that. The most popular commander in this queue right now is just actually going to be Atraxa, and you just destroy Atraxa. So, about this counter here. There are up and downsides. If they have specifically Sudden Edict, I think... No, we can play around everything. So Sudden Edict makes me sacrifice a creature, but has split second. So effectively it can't get countered, and it just cannot be responded to. So the way we... Like, if they had Sudden Edict, they would just kill the Rattle Chains and then cast Sudden Edict to remove the Geist, and we would be in a really bad spot. The way we play around specifically that scenario is, in response to the Raska, flash an Ascended Spirit, and then just not counter Raska, because if then they go like Dark Ritual board wipe, or like just something else, we still have the wash away. So the correct sequencing here was they put Raska on the stack, in response to that flash an Ascended Spirit, and then counter anything that kills the Geist, because the Geist alone represents lethal, and let everything else happen. Anyways, GG. We are ready to play against the Atraxa Grand Unifier. So this is a hand that really wants a 1-drop. We don't have a 1-drop. Because like there is nothing we can put these auras on. And like this is specifically the reason why we don't want to play too many of these. Mulligan. I quite like this. We can also just Fragment Reality a 2-drop Mana Rock. I think like I'm totally into that. Well, unless they play Land Wolves. Tricky situation. Tricky situation. Oh, come on, opponent. Why do you punish me by letting me draw this Hall of the Storm Giant? With that in mind, I think I like just committing the Malevolent Hermit to the battlefield. Yeah. Rusko. Okay. So we can just draw a bunch of cards in this spot. With a Curiosity, let's do exactly that. So, Curiosity, draw, I think I like just removing this. Yep, and they don't have anything. Beautiful. Like, if we exiled the... We could have exiled the Midnight Clock, but I'm not sure if they play 2-drop creatures. We definitely just countered that with a Malevolent Hermit, don't we? Yeah, beautiful. And it's going to be really brutal here, I think, if we Nightclub Bouncer the Midnight Clock. Although there is some argument to be made to do other plays. Let's draw first, let's see. I think we want to... Oh, we want to squeeze all the value out of that out of that hope. And I think to do that, it's 100% use the mana. And not use the mana, attack their mana. So, Nightclub Bouncer now. Bouncing Midnight Clock. They play a land, they replay Midnight Clock. Okay. And then we Skyclave. If we Skyclave now and they don't have a play, that's really brutal. Also, Nightclub Bouncer works on Atraxa. Skyclave does not. And there is a very real scenario where, you know, we get into situations where that matters. I think I like Skyclave, even though it's a bit more mana inefficient. So, let's see. Also, Nightclub Bouncer can remove a Planeswalker or a similar threat like that. Overall, decent card in this spot. We can also just bounce Rusko. We could have just also Skyclave the Rusko, but I think it's just important to take them off mana. there is a very real consideration to, you know, just play Geist. Well, not anymore. So we could have attacked with Hope and then play Geist. Nope. So yeah, just Geist, Gryff Boon on the Geist. And then if they have a board wipe, they have a board wipe. And then we just replay Geist. If they board wipe, right? And they are... yeah, Kaya the Inexorable, sure. They minus the Gryff Boon, I think. Sure. And that means we can just go ahead and return the Rusko to their hand. Staggering Insight. No, we can't do that. We need to top deck a blue source for that. Well, okay. Although, like, we just lose if the opponent plays a Traxa. There are like so much life. I think we just have to not play around anything, and then just hope they don't have another untapped land here, which is highly unlikely. Geist, yep, you, and then just force ourselves through that. Untapped land Traxa would be kind of really bad. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Now we can just swing in again, draw a bunch of cards, hopefully. Well, one card. So, is that lethal? So they have to block the Hall of the Storm Giants. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, seems about right. And they replay a Traxa. Then we swing for 7 again. This is more than 7. Yeah, I think we're just going to attack twice with Hall of the Storm Giants in this case. Right? Is that lethal? I think it's lethal. They play a Traxa, so they need a 1-mana removal spell or something similar. So 1, 2, 3, Geist. It's 1-off lethal. Ah, damn it, it's 1-off lethal. So... oh, Emergent Ultimatum. Yeah, we're toast. See, if they replayed the Traxa here, they would have lived at 1 life, which is pretty brutal. If they go like board wipe, extra turn, yeah, I think that's the pile I should make. Board wipe, extra turn, and then just regain so much life with the Traxa. Like, double extra turn allows them to play a Traxa, refill hand, and swing in for the life gain. If board wipe extra turn just cleans the board and then gives them 1 extra turn to just play tracks and not swing in, but still just a sizable advantage. I think we have to put back the board wipe, otherwise we're not going to win without a board in this spot. Yeah, so board wipe, yeah, we just can't let that happen. So 1 extra turn only, and then they minus Staggering Insight. No, they... oh, I see what they're doing. I quite like that pile as well. Although I think an additional extra turn might be better. Now they are just going to plus the Nissa and make huge blockers. Right? No way you just minus Staggering Insight. Plus first and then minus in the next turn, at least. They disagree.
Enough resistance.
And I disagree with their disagreement. Yep. Like now you could be in a spot where you have, like you definitely want to plus here in this spot, and now you could have had the choices, do I want to minus now or do I want to plus again? And now they just have the choice of plussing again, and with a smaller creature. Nonetheless. we are in massive trouble. Yeah, this is pretty problematic, although their cards are not great. Yep, there is a 7/7. Thoughtseize, okay. Hard mode activated. Not sure if they were supposed to cast that Thoughtseize. Nonetheless, I think we are dead. This swings in. Yeah, that's just too much. GG. Really nice game. We are done with the game, so I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. And Geist of St. Traft is, in my opinion, definitely the strongest commander out of the Shadows over Innistrad Remastered set. And, you know, it's not even close. Like, a lot of commanders are just, like, medium. I'm not too excited for the commander. This is definitely a set for the 99 more than the command zone. But, holy moly, Geist of St. Traft is an exception to that and an amazing one. I expect Geist of St. Traft to make appearances in competitive play, as it is really strong against the currently #1 competitive deck, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and it's a pretty good deck. So it's a good deck, and it's not an insanely expensive deck, but you know, you have to kind of reach into your pocket to craft it. So, this is what you're looking at. First and foremost, the good news is a lot of cool things are common and uncommon, right? First, that. The problem is, your flash threats that you rely on, like a lot of them are, like a lot of the more expensive flash threats, or like all of them, are rare or mythic. You want a good color fixing mana base. So the utility lands, you don't need them as much, but the color fixing is pretty important. And like, you don't need a Nimble Obstructionist, right? And you don't need to have a Brazen Borer, and you don't need to have a Spell Queller, and you don't need a Wandering Emperor, right? But just having the critical mass of all of those cards together is what makes the deck effective. So if you start cutting too many of these, a deck starts to fall apart. That being said, Nimble Obstructionist is definitely not a must craft. The other ones are way more potent. And what you can do, in my opinion, is for each rare mythic you don't have, you lean heavier into the Voltron plan. With common and uncommon auras that just buff Geist of St. Traft. Or, you know, just a slightly more counter magic, just make sure it doesn't cost too much. I would rather play something that makes the opponent pay more but costs 2 mana than just being a hard counter at 3 mana. So make sure your counter magic costs 2 or less. And yeah, as I said, just go Voltron and then slightly but surely transition, slowly but surely transition to this version where you cut the Voltron elements, you get the more expensive rares and mythics, and then you end up with this deck. That is how I would approach it. Again, you don't need any single card, although there are cards here that are more staples than others. Let's do it the other way around. Let's put all of the like definitely expendable cards that I would highly recommend not to craft until you go like really deep into this deck. Yeah, the rattle chains as well, right? Then the rest of the cards is pretty flexible. Maybe not the Spell Queller. Spell Queller is like insane in this deck, but I don't see Spell Queller being too amazing in most other decks apart from things like Rafine. But yeah, like these are a bit more niche and specific to this like archetype, maybe Malevolent Hermit as well. And then the rest of the cards is pretty much like more generic. Although like like we're getting to a point where I'm putting cards here that is more like just generally, hey, this is like tempo, and all of this is just like you can play this in more than one deck, right? But yeah, that's basically my thinking. How just craft the cards here that you're going to use in other decks as well. If you said to yourself, man, Tail's End is such a staple in Historic Brawl, but I never came around to crafting it, this is your excuse to craft Tail's End now, and then you just have it sitting in your collection. You can forever use it in your decks. Memory Lapse, Fateful Absence, Soul Petitions, all of these kinds of cards that are usually good in just any deck. That's your excuse to craft them, and then if you go a bit deeper, you can start picking from these here. Anyways, that is my video on Geist of St. Traft. Hope you enjoyed it. Also, what you just saw there in the last game, yeah, that was my first loss with the deck, although the sample size is not too huge, of like 15, 16 games. The deck can win pretty consistently. It's pretty good, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.